the number one reason that I love making low budget, no budget, micro budget films, whatever you want to call them, is creative freedom. I mean, really, the minute someone writes you a check, and the more substantial the check, the less control you have over your finished film. And I've discovered that when I've gotten the bigger checks, there's been a level of interference and collaboration that I'm uncomfortable with. Because at the end, if the movie doesn't work, a number of my films haven't worked, whether with an audience or with critics, it's terrible when well, that wasn't my vision. That wasn't my movie. I didn't anticipate that ending or any of the other things that might happen during the process. So I realized, I make smaller dialogue-driven character pieces. So I can tell a version of any one of my films. I can tell the smaller version, and for the most part, it will probably look the same. I may not have the same level of stars in it. I may not be able to have the type of location where I can pack it with extras. But if it's really, at the end of the day, it's two people communicating, connecting, fighting, whatever the thing is, I can figure out a pretty interesting way to shoot that for a lot less money. And once I realized that, that's what I've been doing for, I guess, the last 4 or 5 films now. And I always talk about there are lists of compromises that a filmmaker can work off of. The list of compromises that you're going to work off of when you make a studio film or even an indie film where you are making a film for several $1 million and you have equity partners and producers, is you're going to have to make a lot of creative compromises. There's a lot of chefs in that kitchen. The list of compromises I have to make when I'm making a micro-budget film is, I'm not going to be able to cast movie stars. So I know already going into it, I probably will not be looked at for the type of distribution, theatrical distribution, that I might otherwise if I had some stars. This is going to be nothing about the bells and whistles, the technique that is going to blow anyone away. We can't afford 5 feet of track, let alone 50 feet of track for that gorgeous shot. We don't use Steadicams, we don't use cranes. We have to shoot a lot of times with available light. So there are those types of compromises on the production side. But what I gain is I get to make my films without interference. I get to work with actors who are my friends. I get to sort of work with my crew time and time again. All those people who have given me so much over the years, I get to reward them with that. We work with 3, 4, and 5-man crews, so everybody works for free and then owns a piece of the movie. And I can tell you, everyone is making a lot more money this way than if we were making films the other way. So those are just some of the reasons that I've kind of fallen back in love with kind of the way I made Brothers McMullen. What had started to happen in, I guess, the second half of the aughts was the theatrical business was hurting. You had great companies going out of business, whether it was Paramount Classics or Warner Brother Independent, and later a Picture House, Think Film. These companies were disappearing. So you were then also being offered a deal where it was a no advance partnership. So they'd buy your movie for no money, essentially, claim that they would give you 50% of the profits after they had turned a profit. We had done one of these deals on a movie called Looking for Kitty that I made, which we made for $250,000. That movie definitely turned a profit, and we never saw any money. The other thing was, I had been, just from going around to film festivals and film societies, I had been starting to hear from my audience that basically said, look, if we don't live in New York or LA, or Chicago or San Fran, if we're anywhere, if we're in the suburbs, which a big part of my audience is a more suburban audience, your movies never come to the theater. So I'll see you on Conan, I'll see, an actor, Jay Moore, on, Leno, let's say, for The Groomsman, and the movie never got to my town. So I had to wait the 9 months for it to be released on DVD, and by then, quite honestly, you kind of forget about the title. So we knew we had an audience, but we had been having trouble finding them theatrically for the last couple of titles. So Purple Violet's screens at Tribeca. We have a great screening, and we get a couple of the smaller distribution companies, make us a proposal, and it's the no advance partnership. And we just thought, why do that again? There's no chance for us to make any money here, and we're going to have a tough time reaching the audience. The two most popular TV shows being downloaded at the time, or rented or bought, I guess, were it was Sex and the City and I think Grey's Anatomy. Purple Violets was sort of had the same audience. Selma Blair played a novelist in New York, and it was a romance. And we thought, well, look, if that many people are on iTunes already, watching that television content that's similar to our movie, why don't we gamble and approach iTunes and see? We did. They thought it was a great idea. The fact that we were the first film, the fact that we were willing to give it to them exclusively, they promoted the hell out of it on their site. And it was funny, when we did all the press for that movie, I'd say 75% of the journalists said to me, okay, you're out of your mind. You realize no one is ever going to watch a movie on their computer, you know? And that was '07. So it's kind of amazing how far we've come in 5-6 years now. And the movie did surprisingly well when it came out. I mean, the movie cost $4 million. We did not make $4 million, but we made a very significant, number where we thought moving forward, all right, iTunes is a platform that we should think about sort of first and foremost, because we had already fallen out of love with theatrical. On the next film, what we did was this movie called Nice Guy Johnny. So Nice Guy Johnny was born out of trying to get another film made. I couldn't get it made. I'm very frustrated in that experience. A bigger movie, $2 million movie. So my producing partner and I, this guy named Aaron Lubin, out of frustration, we kind of, we sat down and said, all right, when I was 25 and I made Brothers McMullen, I had no money, no connections, and didn't know how to make movies. And I made that movie for $25,000 and it did all right. Why don't we do the same thing now? So we wrote down sort of our list of rules, and it was the sort of the McMullen rules. We were going to shoot in 12 days. The production cost would be no more than 25. We'd only work with unknown actors that have to do their own hair and makeup. We wouldn't pay for a single location. We'd shoot primarily available light, and we had to shoot the film in 12 days. And with those parameters in mind, I sat down and wrote the script for Nice Guy Johnny. And we made that movie at the end of post-production. It cost $125,000. So when we premiered at Tribeca, again, offers start coming in for distribution, and John Sloss, my lawyer, says, I want you to think about something. Because he knew that we were very successful with iTunes, he goes, if we add VOD to that component, you have an option now where instead of playing in the two theaters, New York and LA, you can get into 45 million homes. Like, you already did this thing with Purple Violets. You should think strongly about adding this to it, and maybe this even becoming the key component. And it made sense to me. So that's what we did, and that movie, we didn't spend a single cent marketing the movie. Everything was just done through social media, and primarily Twitter. A little $125,000 movie got into the iTunes top 10. It was just us and Winter's Bone were the only indie movies in the top 25 that week. So that spoke to, okay, we know now where our audience is. And that movie did very well, so we replicated that on Newlyweds and then replicated again on Fitzgerald's Family Christmas. And now this next film, we're gonna even try a different version of a digital release. Well, our mutual friend, Ted Hope, is the guy who is the one who convinced me that I needed to get on Twitter. And I'm sure you've read his blogs. At the time, I think it was 500 true fans. I think now it has to be 5,000 true fans. But basically, his argument was, it's harder and harder for us to reach our audience. That pie that an audience is interested in is being quickly divided into so many more options than existed in 1995. So he goes, you need to have a meaningful relationship with your fans, because you're going to need them to do a lot of the marketing work that, let's say, a studio or a record label or a book publishing company used to do for artists in the past. And that made a lot of sense to me. So I just went on Twitter, and a big part of it for me was, my director's commentaries on my DVDs. I always was very forthcoming with how we made our movies for nothing, and I always heard from people that they like that. So I knew I'm gonna focus on how I make my movies, and this will just be for film students, film geeks who want to figure out how do I make a movie for 25 grand. The other thing was, when I'm in film school, I'm walking down 6th Avenue, and I'm about 20 yards behind Spike Lee. And all I want to do is run up to Spike and ask him 1,000 questions about how he made She's Gotta Have It. All right? And I don't have the balls to approach Spike on the street, and I missed my opportunity. So I just thought, well, you know what? Why don't I use Twitter as that? I'm Spike on the street, kid out there, and the Twitterverse is me 20 yards behind. Now he can approach me and ask the question. And I have to admit, I'm surprised how much I enjoy the engagement.
Hey folks, Joseph A. Sabora here, and I'm doing a new movie review this week, which surprisingly enough, it's a disaster film called San Andreas. Yep, a movie about a rescue mission pilot who's played by Dwayne Johnson, aka The Rock, who goes around rescuing a lot of people from a massive earthquake that's heading towards northern and southern California and Nevada from a San Andreas fault. Yep. Filled with glorious bad CGI of the entire building and all the cities all the way around into a major destruction. And I've seen this movie before. In fact, I already saw the movie from 1974 that's just like this movie, only it had better special effects, and I know it has bad acting too, but who cares. But it was an all-star cast of legendary actors, called Earthquake, which would later become, a theme attraction for Universal Studios, Hollywood. Part of the tour. But it was actually the movie that started it all, which basically was a tribute to all the earthquakes that we had. I'm always terrified at them because it's always, it's always scary to having to live in a building where a major destruction is about to happen. We're going to be able to feel the shakiness, all the tremors, and then later the aftershocks, all of that. It's like you're starting to feel the rumble that's about to happen. And trust me, being in Southern California, we have felt a lot of that. Especially when we had the worst one, like over 20 years ago, which was the Northridge earthquake. And yes, I remember that actually happened during the earlier mornings of that particular Monday, which was actually on the day of the Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. Was when, there was like a major one. And it actually destroyed several houses. It damaged a lot of buildings all the way around Northridge. There was a huge fire. It even damaged the freeway ramps all the way around. Several people got killed from that. It was definitely the worst one that we ever had. Even though the previous ones were the earlier ones that we got. It was the worst. But luckily we survived because we weren't, even though we felt it, at least we weren't actually near from where we were. So we were lucky. But then, of course, from time to time, we've been feeling, lots of aftershocks and a lot of rumbling at times. We're mostly getting small earthquakes nowadays. Especially in recent times too, and it's just, wow. Every time I keep hearing something shaking throughout the entire room, I feel like I just want to race and get out of there before it's too late. Trying to find a better place, just so I could be protected. But I know it's not easy. I know it isn't, because it's scary. And that's why I'm not a big fan of that. But back to this, I considered disaster movies as guilty pleasures for me, because I have seen several of them. With besides Earthquake, I've seen The Towering Inferno, the airport films, the Poseidon Adventure, When Time Runs Out, and even the films from the 90s such as Twister, the Tornado film, along with Independence Day, which was an alien invasion film. That's in a way a disaster film too. With Godzilla, of course, and movies like Deep Impact, Volcano, Dante's Peak, and then we have Armageddon, of course, and several others that followed. I mean, we had The Day After Tomorrow, and then of course that terrible 2012, which just really sucks. I didn't like that film at all. And I know the last disaster film we had was a found footage movie called Into the Storm. Yeah. Pretty forgotten as we know it, but yeah. But now comes San Andreas, which is basically what it is. Earthquake Part 2, but with more CGI, corny dialogue, and pretty much has the same prediction just like in the film 2012. It almost makes that film look like a masterpiece as we know it. So let's get right to it. It stars Dwayne Johnson, aka The Rock. Always been best known as a former WWE wrestler who would later turn out to be an actor. Carla Gugino, who's been always this good in several films, including True Beverly Hills and Son-in-Law. Alexandra Daddario from the film Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, along with its sequel. Hugo Johnson-Burt, Art Parkinson, Jan Gruffudd, who's been best known as playing Mr. Fantastic in the first two Fantastic Four films. The ones before we had the reboots. Archie Panjaba, Paul Giamatti, who's always been good as an actor. Will Young Lee, Kylie Minogue, the Australian pop singer, also very hot too, by the way, and winds up being in films like Street Fighter and Biodome, that terrible film with Pauly Shore and Stephen Baldwin. Alec Ugoff, Marissa Netley, Todd Williams, Colton Hayes, Morgan Griffin, and Matt Gerald. The movie is written by Carlton Cuse, who's been best known for writing screenplays for TV shows like The Adventures of Bristol County Jr., Lost, and of course TV shows like Bates Motel and The Strain. And it's directed by Brad Payton, who's been best known for directing that other film, also with The Rock, Journey to the Mysterious Island, which is a sequel to The Journey to the Center of the Earth with Brendan Fraser. The movie begins somewhere in the San Fernando Valley, where we meet a young girl who's driving around in the mountains, where all of a sudden she's being knocked over the road and crashed all the way down into the cliff, where suddenly the Los Angeles Fire Department air rescue pilot named Raymond Ray Gaines, who's played by Dwayne Johnson, had came to the rescue to save the young girl who was already being stuck into the car, was ready to get out, and until they got her out of there with the help of the second team, and the car crashes and she was safe. Already Ray is in the midst of being divorced by his wife Emma, who's played by Carla Gugino, and was planning on a trip to San Francisco with his daughter Blake, who's played by Alexandra Daddario. But meanwhile, Caltech seismologist Lawrence Hayes, who's played by Paul Giamatti, along with his colleague Dr. Kim Park, who's played by Will Young Lee, were basically studying about the predictions of earthquakes that's happening all across California and Nevada, only to find out that there's a fault that's actually heading towards these two states, it turns out to be a San Andreas fault. So during their research, they went all the way to Hoover Dam in Nevada, just trying to predict everything that's about to happen, until they suddenly triggered the 7.1 magnitude earthquake that's collapsing the entire dam. Everybody had to escape. All the bridges were damaged, and suddenly, just as Kim was ready to save the girl from being stuck towards the bridge and in the dam, suddenly Lawrence had went over there, already grabbed the girl, and then Kim, already being stuck between the fault line, had killed them completely with the dam aside. So, yeah, that was probably one of the worst ones that they ever experienced. Yeah, because he told the little girl not to watch. Well, so then Ray was already called into work, because of what happened. But then he discovered that Blake wants up with her mother's new boyfriend, Daniel Riddick, who's played by Ian Guffrud, to San Francisco. While Emma, already in Los Angeles, was about to have lunch with Daniel's sister, Susan, who's played by Kylie Minogue. That's when, already as Hayes discovered that the San Andreas Fault is shifting and soon will cause a major earthquake, when the entire city was collapsing, which actually triggers 9.1 magnitude earthquake already. And with Susan among all the casualties during the event, was about to escape from the building that's already being collapsed. And this is probably one of the stupidest scenes I've ever saw, but because I know maybe they're just going in for laughs. But when Susan was about to race into the emergency exit, just to get to the on top of the building, trying to escape along with the rest of the people, Emma was about to go into the same exit the way that she went, because they already raced into it. Then suddenly the earthquake crashes in, as she got fallen over. And then when she was about to open the door, we see several people actually falling through their deaths, with one guy actually hanging onto the line, and he fell. I presume that Susan actually got killed when this happened. So that's just bullshit. I mean, hey, it could have been worse. We probably would have seen Susan in a horrible death as we know it, but nope, they just have to throw in this stupid bullshit CGI garbage in the mix. So anyway, soon Emma, already on top of the building that's just ready to be collapsed, was saved by Ray by going up to the helicopter and trying to find her daughter, who was already in San Francisco, with Daniel's office, where she meets Ben, who's an engineering student from England, along with his brother Ollie. They're both played by Hugo Johnson Burt and Art Parkinson. So apparently Daniel and Blake were about to leave, but soon got trapped in their car at a parking garage after a string of earthquakes, which suddenly, Blake got stuck into the back of the car, because her leg got caught, just when it killed the driver from the concrete that fell into him. And while Daniel was about to leave, just so he can find someone, call for help, so they can save her, suddenly Ben and Ollie had found Blake, and it was about to rescue her and escape. Already in the streets of San Francisco, already ready to be destroyed, they went into a local electronics store just so they can make some contact to find out if Ray and Emma are there, so that way they'll be on their way to rescue them. And they did. So suddenly Ray's helicopter fails, forces him to make an emergency landing at a shopping mall in Bakersfield, which suddenly was in the middle of the chaos of looting, where everybody's just stealing a lot of stuff at the shopping center. So he stole a truck, with Emma, and they escape. They wound up crossing an old couple whose car just broke down just once they discovered the San Andreas Fault, already crashing into the side of the road. Yeah, and it was a huge one at that. Yeah, it was like next to the gas station. So then they also found out that the old couple was in an aviator fire, so they went to the aviation where Ray and Emma just found an airplane and was ready to fly just so they can once again go after them, just so they can get to San Francisco in time. Because they're trying to find a place to meet so that way they can signal them to the what seems to be the Coy Tower, which Daniel actually was planning to build. And that way Ray and Emma were forced to parachute into the city, where suddenly the 9.6 magnitude earthquake was about to occur. Yeah, they actually landed into the AT&T park, the baseball field, and I know that's probably the most memorable scene right there, where he actually says, "What is it like to get into second base?" I gotta admit that was fun. But then already, they're about to escape. They were already hitting a tsunami as we know it. They're trying to get all the people safe all the way into the field, so that way they don't get get caught. While Daniel, of course, was already running from his life. Suddenly, the boat and the cargo ship had went straight into the San Francisco bridge and actually kills Daniel from a cargo box. Yeah, there's bad CGI right there. Yeah, this is just pretty much like you see in video games. But you see this a lot in movies. So already Blake, Glenn, and Ollie was running into the building, which the tsunami starts hitting, knocking over several buildings, leaving Daniel's building flooded. Once they were still there, already sinking beneath the water, Ray and Emma had finally arrived. While they were on the speedboat, while Ray was about to save his daughter Blake, who's already stuck in on a door that's already been flooded. And he was trying to get it open. That way he can get Blake out of there, because already she was about to drown. So then Emma finally came to the rescue by driving the speedboat into the building, so that way they can get everybody out of there. And when they did, Ray was about to save Blake by giving her CPR. Yep, and she was okay. So then they were finally already they were all safe. They were happily reunited together, and they were headed into the relief camp, where suddenly they were talking about their future as the rescue vehicles are descending, radically alter the landscapes of San Francisco Bay area. So they're all safe. But the movie, however, isn't. I don't know. I mean, I'll give you this. It had its moments. There were several scenes that even I just mentioned, the one with the AT&T Park scene, and all the other ones that they went into. But at the same time, it's just pretty boring. I mean, it's just another disaster movie filled with bad CGI, lousy dialogue, such as pretty much the same cliche dialogue you often hear in several movies, such as "Oh my God," "Oh shit," and all this other crap that they put into it. Alexandra Daddario, she's okay. She wasn't anything special as the daughter Blake. I mean, I don't know. I mean, coming from the movie Percy Jackson, I don't think she's that great of an actress. I'll be honest with you, but hey, it could have been worse. The two actors, Hugo Johnson Bird and Art Parkinson, they were okay also, but once again, nothing special to them, but they're just basically, just your typical guys, as brothers, just going around bickering with each other, and they're both trying to fall in love with Blake because she's more attractive, so on and so forth. And his older brother is nervous all the time, and while Ollie is just, already visiting to San Francisco, because even though she's in love with her too, because they want to visit and everything, like any other, because they were tourists anyway. They were also about to get a job as well. There was that one scene where already Ben, who's already been hurt, trying to hide into the streets you know, with once again another destruction. You know, he was about to kiss Blake, and then just when Ollie had showed up, he was he was about to say to them, "Wait till you see how our mother's gonna like her," or something like that. It's just, come on, seriously. They're just going for a funny moment right there. It just didn't do it for me. Dwayne Johnson, you know, who's been good in several stuff that he's been in, you know, in some movies. I think he deserved a better action film. Don't you think? I mean, once again, you know, this is just another, you know, disaster film that was just not needed, and he was just cast in for a paycheck. Cara Gugino was okay. Paul Giamatti was good in the film too. But then there were some stupid scenes too in the movie. I mean, come on. And that does kind of piss me off too. I mean, yeah, because Daniel was just about to help, you know, Blake, you know, already because they're getting stuck in the car with the concrete already, you know, killing the driver. And Blake is like saying, oh, he's an asshole because, you know, he left her behind. No, because apparently he was trying to find some help. But unfortunately, he got stuck in the middle of the huge crowd that's already about to escape from the massive earthquake that's about to happen. I mean, this is bullshit. And then of course, you know, they even got Emma, you know, calling his house, telling him that, you know, she's gonna kill him if, you know, for actually leaving his daughter there. I mean, fucking bullshit. It's so stupid. I don't know what were they thinking. Yeah, I mean, you call him an asshole because he was trying to save her. Bull. Fucking bull. I mean, they all deserve better than this. I just wouldn't recommend it. It's pretty much, you know, Earthquake Part 2 mixed in with 2012 because we already know how bad 2012 was. This one is just way worse. But it's just more forgotten than ever before, so. And this movie just made money at the box office out of its budget of $110 million. Yeah, out of $470.5 million. Wow, I mean, just wow. I am so glad I didn't see this movie in the theater because it would be a waste of money. And I went to see a better film that day, that particular weekend, and I'm just glad. I was so happy that I went to see that, you know, and that of course was Mad Max Fury Road. And that movie deserved more money than this piece of crap does. I'm so ashamed that this movie gets all the credit while Mad Max Fury Road, already, you know, becoming as we know it, didn't want it at number one because I know Pitch Perfect took over. You know, Pitch Perfect 2 that is. It's just ridiculous. I mean, this is why Mad Max deserved more of its money than this film does. I mean, because 5 years from now, this movie will just be long forgotten. It'll be into the bargain bins of Walmart and all the other stores, and you probably won't be able to know about it by now. So I say skip it. So anyway, I give San Andreas 1.5 stars. I'm Joseph A. Sabora, and I'll see you later. Bye.